Welcome everybody to the December 12th meeting of the British Empire Study Group. Thank you very, very much for attending. And, I think we've had a really good program year. Really excited for what's in store for 2025. So stay tuned to see everything we have. And if you do have a program of interest, please feel free to shoot us an email and we will try our best to accommodate. So everyone is welcome at the British Empire Study Group. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to really do anything. You just show up. And that's sort of the fun of it. And that's one of the things we like. So now we're going to give you the one and only Duncan Barber. To introduce him is my cohort, Mr. Robert Luton.
Thank you, Joan. Welcome, everyone, to our final program of 2024. This evening, a fellow member of the British Empire Study Group, Duncan Barber, will give his presentation of 20th century Great Britain postal history, mail to the Empire, inland, and elsewhere. A few words about our presenter this evening. Dr. Duncan Barber started collecting stamps as a child in England around 1966. He continued to collect them after his family moved to Canada. His post-secondary education was at the University of Toronto and the Royal Military College of Canada. He's a retired safety and licensing analyst, nuclear engineer, chemist, and nuclear forensics analyst. His mother describes his former work as a boffin, or a government scientist. He's exhibited both locally and nationally, usually on Great Britain subjects, ranging from plating the 1840 penny black and 2 penny blues to the 1993 through 1998 inland registered and special delivery rates with the short-lived blue and red guaranteed delivery labels. He's also exhibited the development of the dreadnought and the development of the battleship as one-frame thematic exhibits. He also has a humorous exhibit entitled Tambromanie, an exhibitionist's guide to showing off a stamp collection, which has become a favorite with many collectors, not so much with the judges. He became a local philatelic judge, a national judge, and recently completed his first assignment as national jury chair. His current interests are primarily Great Britain postal rates, primarily Queen Elizabeth II, and Great Britain registered express covers from the year 1891. Duncan has published philatelically in the Bookmark Journal, the Grand News, the American Philatelist, Topical Time, the Philatelic Exhibitor, the Great Britain Journal, the Great Britain Philatelic Society Newsletter, and the Philatelic Specialist Society of Canada Publications. Before Duncan starts his presentation, I'd like to extend a personal thank you to all of the presenters and followers who supported our programs this past year. It's been a sincere pleasure for me to be a part in it. But most of all, I want to say we owe a huge thank you to Joan Harmer for all of her hard work and media skills that go together to create these programs. You have no idea. So now, without further ado, I give you our esteemed presenter, Duncan Barber.
So thank you to Ken Snelson, the editor of the newsletter of the Philatelic Specialist Society of Canada, for the photograph which was taken at the London Ontario Canpact show where I was jury chair. You'll see that I have glasses except when I'm in front of a computer monitor. Right, and these are some of the things which I will show in the talk. I had to go back and find one of them because it wasn't in the first draft of the talk. Right, so this will give you the title that we finally agreed on. I was told that rates was a 4-letter word. I think it's 5 letters, but that must be the 25% buyer's premium. So it's the British Empire Study Group. I'm, when they say doctor, no, that's a PhD. That's, my friends tell me that stands for phony doctor. And it should be December 12th today. Right. So these are some of the subject headings I came up with that I wanted to illustrate. Well, yeah, these are some of the ones I wanted to illustrate. I cut about half of them out because you don't want to be here till tomorrow. Though some of you may already be getting close to tomorrow. So UPU surface rates by half ounce, ounce, and by grams. I had put imperial and penny in quotation marks because imperial became Commonwealth and the US. Penny became up to fourpence. Anyway, so it was then the Commonwealth surface letter rate in later years. UK US Postal Treaty, which gave both parties something that they wanted. One cover from World War I, one from World War II. There'll be all up mail to Europe, which means that there was no separate surface mail service. Try saying that quickly 3 times. It went by whichever was the fastest route. So if there was Fargat, Croydon, mail to Denmark and Scandinavia would go across the North Sea on ferries or mail ships. Airmail zones outside Europe from 1947. They were called Zone A, Zone B, and Zone C. Well, that's not strictly true. Originally, it was paragraph 1, subparagraph 2, paragraph 1, subparagraph 3, subparagraph 1, subparagraph 4. But that doesn't roll off the tongue. So even though it's anachronistic, we still call them ABC right from the beginning. And then it became Zone 1 and Zone 2 from 1991. And that changed in the 21st century. And I've been told not to make political jokes that would upset either Democrats or Republicans, so I'll stick to ones that will upset neither or both. In the UK, there was a switch from separate rates for letters, postcards, and printed paper to first class and second class. That way you could send your postcard to your boss first class and to your in-laws second class. But the switch of currency from pounds, shillings, and pence. It always looks better when we write the pound sign out with the fancy sort of script L. That way no one thinks we're talking about LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, to pounds and pence, new pence. New pence with a P, except in the Scott catalogue. And then I've got one regional from Wales, because the dragon is the prettiest. And then there are 95 values of face values of Masons in the 20th century. And if you want to cover to the end of the Masons, it's 150 values altogether, which means that even the big cerise 10-penny stamp is the same stamp as the say the barcoded whatever color the new barcoded 10-penny was right at the end, plus non-value indicators, non-value indicated Masons. They're equivalent to the US A, B, C, D, E, F stamps, the forever stamps. And I've got one of the first class ones. And then I've got a few covers on barcodes because that's one of my latest interests in publishing topics. Right, so 1901. We're not going to argue about whether 1900 was 20th century or not. UPU rate to Argentina. So in postal history, you could conceivably do a collection of the probably 250 countries which existed at probably 190 at a time in recent years within the GPU or the UPU. This rate started to Argentina in 1878, 1st of April. This is a later Victorian register envelope where they've kindly put the registered indicium on the front of the cover. Previous to this, they were on the back, so you had to look at both sides of the cover to understand what was going on. And 5p is just 2.5p per half ounce times 2 for a letter of 1/2 to 1 ounce. And Argentina is a bit of an obscure destination. I have spoken about registered express covers. these are ones that have both the registered service and the express service. These are particularly common. One of the UK collectors of express mail had never really looked at his collection for these, and after 50 years of collecting, he had 24 of them at the time when he made a list for me. I think I've assumed that Germany was in the UPU right from the very beginning. That wasn't a fact that I checked. So this is actually 3½ ounces, so 1/2 to 1½ ounces. 2d for registration overseas and 3d for overseas express. There were occasions on which the overseas registered rate in particular and express rate were different from the inland rates, largely because the UPU had some control input, whatever you want to call it, over the overseas rates, but the inland rates were up to the Postmaster General and Parliament. Right. Malta, the Empire rate. The Empire rate goes back to the world's first Christmas stamp, a nice Canadian stamp, which was a picture of the Empire, and at the bottom says Xmas 1898. And with the reign of Edward VII, the register envelopes pay both inland postage and registration. But since the imperial penny post rate for the 1st ounce was the same as the inland rate, though the inland rate at some points was for 4 ounces, not just 1, you can use the same thing for the first step of Empire rate, Empire, Commonwealth, Colonial, as it was variously described over various times. So that, and then of course there's always the interesting facts about when the Empire rate applied to a particular country. So this one was fun. It's a little bit grubby, but Malta's a particularly nice destination. This one is to the US. It looks like a plain ordinary UPU 2½d cover. The thing which is particular about this one is that it's in the 1-year period from the 1st of October 1907 to it's on the top, the 30th of September 1908, when the rate to the US was 2.5 per ½ ounce, and after that the Empire rate applied. And after that, the transatlantic penny post rate applied to the US. I'd like to think they thought they recognized the error of their ways and wanted to rejoin the Commonwealth, but I'm sure that would offend, that joke probably offends Republicans and Democrats equally, so I'm allowed to tell that one. And the rate for the 1st ounce was equal to the UK inland rate. And then we got the same rate, but with the same 2.5d rate, but with 2d for overseas registration. So this is a fairly short period as far as rates go. World War I. We now get soldiers' mail, and we got no postage paid because it was free soldiers' mail, but they still paid the 2d for registration. And my friends who do British military mail will tell me that just because the council says T32 doesn't necessarily mean it was from whatever T32 stood for, because they wanted to obfuscate them, so they moved the hammers around where the units they applied to weren't. So if the Germans captured any forces mail, they'd be misled, or at least not get any useful information as to what units are where. So free postage to Canada and 2d registration. Oh yes, we this is the 1.5 penny post for the postal rate increase after the war. The British Post Office was an arm of government, and the Treasury told them what the revenue requirements from the post office were to help round up government revenues, so they amended rates as required in order to meet the revenue requirements. Not sure that could happen these days, but still. Anyway, that's why Canada Post is on strike. So the next cover is a cover to Cayman Islands. This is the same rate as the previous slide, except it's fully paid. That's a penny halfpenny, which is now what penny postage, imperial penny postage cost, and the 2 pence registration. And it's addressed to the postmaster of the Cayman Islands, and it's WI for West Indies. It's not the Postal District, West District 1 in London, which is sometimes what WI gets mistaken for. This is a bit ugly. We like to joke that the Post Office Express label is obviously for Australians, since it's upside down. The rating is at the side there. This is primarily paid a lot because of the insurance. The overseas insurance scheme was in addition to registration. And if you actually look at the rates, you'll find that for many years it was 2 pence per 12 pounds of indemnity. And the first step rate is sometimes quoted as 5 pence because it includes the 3 pence overseas registration. And if you look at the rates, you often see that the rate changes only because the registration fee has changed. The insurance fee stayed very constant. Oh yes, the other nice thing about insured mail is it's fairly easy to figure out what it is, because you will typically see the 30 grams and a value in French francs on the cover. So that gives you the exchange rate between pound sterling and silver francs, which is they're both sterling currencies, so that exchange rate is fairly constant until things change. And 30 grams tells you that it's just over 1 ounce, so it's a 2 ounce cover. And it's surface mail, and it's got the nice George V seahorse definitive. Always nice to see the high values on cover. Yes, the introduction of commemoratives. Often postal historians don't worry too much about commemoratives, but they do make things more interesting. And if you look closely at the edge of these stamps, apart from the foxing, because it went to India, if you look at the edges, those 2 stamps really look like they've been from booklet panes because of the guillotined edges. At this period, the airmail postage was an airmail fee in addition to the regular surface postage. And since surface postage was per ounce and airmail fees were often per half ounce, it just gets a little more confusing. At the PSSC last night, someone was talking about the Belgian bottle being an indication of a reputable company, and mentioned the Knight of the Garter. So we see on this stamp the belt and buckle of the Order of the Garter on the royal coat of arms on the 2 low high values, the 2 and 6 and the 5 shilling. It's postmarked 5th of December 1940. So the overseas registration is still 3 pence. This cover would have gone trans-Pacific and transatlantic airmail, probably across the US by the Transcontinental Railway. And with postage at 4 shillings and 6 pence per half ounce, it's 1.5 to 2 ounces, which is 18 shillings postage, plus the aforementioned 3 pence registration. And it's marked Christmas present. Registration was still only 3 pence, so I have worked out all the rates for you. Right. Yes, the UK-US treaty did not apply from Tangiers. So this is actually 3 pence postage from Tangiers plus 3 pence registration. I've seen a few covers from Alexandre Krauss in Tangiers, addressed to various places and at various rates. So So you could form an interesting collection if you track down more of this correspondence to different destinations at different rates. Another registered express cover, 1953. This is probably using up the eight penny George VI definitives, because if I recall correctly, the 8 penny Elizabeths had been issued by that time. So we see postage plus registration plus express. And you see from the calculation that the express rate was the most stable. It lasted for 34 years. The registration lasted for 5 years. And the postage was also somewhat short-lived. So there are typically more registered express rates in a given time period than there are any of postage rates, registration rates, or express rate fees. Yes. Thinking we might have discovered a new General Post Office label, but no. When I look in the literature, I find the same label on a Philippines cover to the US. So GPO there is actually the government printing office of the United States, not the British General Post Office. So that's why that label does not appear in the British section of various references on labels. Interestingly, the 1 shilling 6 stamp pays the rate to Australia. The 1 shilling 3 pays the rate to the US. When you add the 2 penny halfpenny stamps to the 1 and 6, you get the stamp which pays the rate to Australia, actually paying the registered rate to the United States or to any Zone B location. And I've got a small study of usages of the coronation issue. Yes, this one. First glance at it. Oh, yes. That's an airmail cover, 1 and 3, easy. Well, no, it's not. For one thing, there wasn't a 2 shilling overseas registered rate that would be paid by the indicium plus the threepenny stamp. So what is it? Well, it's 1 and 9, 1 shilling and 9 pence registered because the registration went up. And then it's 1 shilling and 6 pence postage to the US. So 6 pence for the first ounce and 3 times 4 pence, which is 1 shilling for the extra ounces. So that's 3 extra ounces. So this is a 3 to 4 ounce UPU surface letter. Yes, shillings, pounds, shillings, and pence. There were 12 pence to the shilling and 20 shillings to the pound. A bit like we have it in Canada with our nickels since the pennies have been demonetized. Yes, so decimalization introduced its own little wrinkles. What to do with meter machines? And the decision was made that the meter machines, which had previously been in shillings and pence, would be adjusted so that they show only pence, and those are old pence, D. So with a bad picture of this on the internet, I thought 49. No, that must be a decimal value. But no, through work discovered by Maurice Buxton at the GBPS, 49 is actually 49 old pence, which is equivalent to 4 shillings and 1 pence. So these are actually paying the same rate. They both happen to be to the US. So that was somewhere where a little bit of knowledge makes the cover the 49D meter a little bit more interesting, because it's a relatively short period of use of that of meters with old pence only. And then on D-Day being decimalization day, the pence would be taken as new pence, and all the users of meter machines were to record at the end of play on the day before decimalization day. They were to record the settings of what was used on the meter machine, and those would be billed to them as pounds, shillings, and pence, and then after that it would be decimal currency. And of course, that was all thrown into a mess because there was a postal strike in the UK on decimalisation day, which affected some post offices, but not all. The other thing is the forces post offices were still working because going on strike would be mutiny, which was still a capital offence, I believe, at the time, so not likely to go on strike. One of the other things that has come up during the last few years, particularly from German members of the British collecting community, was what they call mixed usage covers. So we get typically the definitive set that has been replaced along with one of the definitive set that replaced it. So these mixed usage covers are getting a bit more attention in the British collecting community, and they're even nicer when they're correctly rated. This one is 3 shillings registration, plus 3 times 1 shilling and 6pence per half ounce. So there's a typo on the slide for which I apologize, meaning 4 shillings and 6pence postage to Zone B for a total of 7 shillings and 6pence. I will at some point be describing the postal zones and some of the idiosyncrasies thereof. All up mail to Germany. It would go either surface or air mail, depending what was most convenient, deemed to be most expedient on the day, depending on the weather, the sea states, the turbulence in the air. The 1 shilling and 9 nation was, it's a value that I think I can safely say hadn't existed in British stamps before. It was the rate to Zone C, which is the Far East, including China and Australia, China and Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands. But in one of my exhibits, I have examples to Macau and Hong Kong, which were European possessions in China, but they were at Zone B because Hong Kong, of course, is closer to the UK than China, and they were allowed to have separate rates for places that are closer. And Macau was a Portuguese colony, and Portugal and England have been allies for a very long time. And the reason for that, of course, is that they have a similar opinion of the Spanish over many years. So this was 2 shillings express and 9pence postage. There was no single stamp paying 2 shillings because the existing Queen Victoria 2 shilling stamps had been demonetized. But in June of 1970, we get the nice new 10p nation issued before decimalization. I mean, why introduce confusion all at once on decimalization day when you can introduce it slowly by stages and have people confused for much longer? And 10p was a high value stamp at that time. It was 2 shillings after all. That was a lot of money in those days. So 10p equals 2 shillings equals the express postal rate. So that's one of the big usages of the 10p nation when it's not just a high value for making up high cost postage. Yes, foreign surface postcard rates. Whether or not there was a British Commonwealth postcard rate is an interesting question. Separate postcard rates for the Commonwealth existed on and off between 1935 and 1974. There's a reference there if you want the details. One of the things which did happen was that the postcard rates at the Commonwealth rate may or may not have existed because they were equal to the letter rate, but the Commonwealth letter rate was cheaper than the foreign postcard rate. So that gave the appearance of a postcard rate. Yes, postal station, the sterling postal stationery was still valid until the end of February of '72, and this one is particularly nice. so far as we know, this is not in the sense that there are lots of them, and this particular number, which exists in whatever the quantity issued were. This is the discovery copy of a 3-shilling Forces registered mail indicium on the regular national postal stationery envelope, and Dr. Huggins has said that, well, yes, because of the way these were printed, 4 of them must have existed, at least 4 must have existed, because that's the size of paper that went into the machine. Regrettably, there are some things wrong with the cover. It's addressed to a philatelist whose name can be found on packboat covers sent that are philatelic. The 15p registration is equal to 3 shillings and is good, but the 5 old pence is equal to 2 new pence, and that's the rate for sending mail to a British Forces post office, not the 1.5p rate for sending it from the British Forces post office in that particular year. So yes, it's a unique cover. It's nice. It could be better, like being express, insured, and acknowledgement of receipt as well. But we can't. Well, we can ask for everything, but we can't expect to get it. This is a piece of postal stationery that is unique in the other sense. However many of them were issued, it's using up the old 3 shilling and 5p stock. So 3 shillings and 5p, old money, updated here with 6p new money. And this is the only piece of postal stationery that existed with mixed currencies on it, and it's been upgraded another 2p to pay for another 2 ounces. And this is early because later it was 3p for 2 ounces, and the increment for the extra 2 ounces was not 2p. So that's a rather nice piece. I keep being told that the 6p Mason is a hard one to find correctly used in the first period of its the first rate period since decimalization. Well, this is one of them. This is the 6p Mason adhesive, operating the 3 shilling and 5p postal stationery envelope, which is worth 17p and some fractions that round down. And this makes it equivalent to what became the 23p envelope, though the post office hadn't decided what the rates were when they printed them. So the new envelopes actually said 17.5p because it was going to be 15p registration, 2.5p first class postage. But the rates changed after the dies were made, and so then the regular envelopes, say 5.5p extra postage, make it up to 23. The 6p Mason also paid the 1 to 2 ounce UPU surface rate, and that's one of the rates that's really difficult to find. I'm not sure if I have one. I can't remember. All right, I talked about zones before. Zone A was North Africa and the Middle East. These are zones outside Europe. And the state Cyprus at one point was Zone A before it became a European destination. So it was North Africa and the Middle East. These are both registered. They're both paid 25p, but they're different rates because up until the 30th of June, the registration rate stayed at 3 shillings, which was 15p. So the first 25p cover is double rate because it's 5p per half ounce for 2 half ounces, therefore 1 half to 1 ounce. The next one is 25 pence, but it's 20 pence registration plus 5 pence per half ounce postage. So, and then it's been redirected back to the UK. Zone B. Zone B was in modern times North and South America, the rest of Africa outside North Africa, and the Caribbean counts as the Americas. Oh, and Southeast Asia, so places, the Near East, places like India, Pakistan. So 4 pence. It's British Honduras is a moderately obscure Zone B destination. I know someone who is collecting airmail postcards to Australia from 1947 to the present day, and continues to limit it to Australia even when the rate became 26 pence to all 3 zones, and even when the postcard rate became equal to the letter rate, and then they stopped even posting it, so it was the letter rate. So that's a nice 4-penny postcard to an obscure destination. Mixed usages again, and this is what's referred to as the gold standard of these mixed usage covers, in that it's the equivalent value of the new set, though perhaps a little bit newer than most of the older collectors of mixed rates we're looking at. This shows that the postal rate did not change. It's 7.5 pence, which equals 1 shilling and 6 pence. And one is the new stamp and one is the old stamp, both of the same fraction of a pound. So that was an interesting change. No, the pre-decimal and post-decimal values on the same cover. This is another example to show the validity of pounds, shillings, and pence stamps. This is actually the 29th of February, 1972. And I bought this because I thought I could work it into Tamper Mani as leap day. And then after I bought it, I realized that, oh, this is the last day of validity of this 1 shilling and 6 penny stamp to pay 7.5 pence postage to Zone B. So now this goes into my postal history collection, and may or may not be in Tamper Mani periodically. This is an over-scrupulous conversion of postal rates. The postal rate was 1 shilling and 9 pence to Japan, China, Korea, the Far East, Australasia, and the Pacific. If you convert that, you get it to 9 pence. If you convert 9 pence back to pre-decimal currency, it becomes 1 shilling and 10 pence. So there were people who thought that you needed to add another penny to make up the difference in rates. However, the post office instructions were to convert the old stamp to decimal currency. So this would have been correctly paid at 1 shilling and 9 pence for the 9 pence rate, even though if you convert 9 pence back, it would be 1 shilling and 10 pence. So it's not as nice of a cover as I thought it was, but this is a nice one because the 1 penny extra postage that was paid is a single stamp, so you don't have to do a lot of arithmetic to find that it's 1 shilling and 10 pence. The difference is not as striking. Yes, telling you that the pre-decimal stamps were invalidated. Well, yes, but not the £1 values. So this one correctly pays the registered rate. A lot of the Stanley Gibbons covers have this markings on them, 25 plus 74, which tells us what the registration and postage is. And I believe that was done by someone in the Gibbons shipping department. Either that or I've got a lot of Gibbons covers that came through the hands of the same stamp dealer with the same handwriting. That's a possibility, but I'm thinking it's less likely than the fact that the markings are by Gibbons. So that's a mixed pre-decimal definitive with a decimal commemorative. Nice, good royalist cover with a bit of the edge cut off because it used to say one. I'm sure it used to say 103 on the edge. Ah, yes, I did mention regionals and also second class. So this is a second class postcard. It is addressed to Barbers, but as far as we know, there are no relatives of. They're not our relatives, so it's just a coincidence that it's addressed to Barber. Before this, there would have been a separate postcard rate until 1968, but this is just a second-class postcard, or a postcard sent by second-class mail. No offense intended to the printers Gerald and Sons Limited of Northwich. It's a very nice postcard. Second class postage. Ah, yes, usages of the halfpenny stamp. The second class rate was 2.5 pence. The first class rate was 3 pence. This is a Setenant pair. If you can look at it closely and you know it's there, you can see the phosphor band here on the left. You can also see a bit of a crease in the stamps, but this is the left band halfpenny stamp from the Wedgwood booklet. It was the only source of that halfpenny sideband stamp. So despite the fact it's a bit ratty and the stamp's a bit worse for the wear, it's not a common item. I have heard of one other which is called the Halfpenny Setenant half-band cover. So this is the other one until someone reports more of them. This one is a bit nicer in that it's got the whole pane, including the tab, all the way to the stitching mark. So someone's actually exploded the booklet to pull the pane out. And this is actually a correctly rated cover, all up registered to Germany. With the halfpenny sideband in the full pane, 20 pence express, 9 pence postage, and they've kindly put the rate chart on it so we can see the 9 pence. So it documents half of the postal rates that apply to this cover, and I'm rather fond of this one. And I'm not aware of any other registered cover with the Wedgwood pane on it. So, yes, halfpenny. The vendor thought this was actually May of 1971. Previous owner, rather. You can see the Y in the 71. Halfpenny Forces rate again. From Germany, and my suspicion is that the British Army of Occupation of the Rhine thought of itself as a government, and so they were paying Royal Mail what everyone else would pay to deliver an airmail postcard, just the terminal fee, and the British military, i.e. the Royal Engineers, i.e. the British taxpayer, pick up the rest of the cost of providing airmail service to the forces. The councillor admittedly is dreadful, but again, I haven't seen another one. So, Kiwi mail. So this would be New Zealand mail. I haven't looked up where Forces Post Office 46 is. It might be Singapore, particularly since it's the Far East. Labels with multiple scripts on it. It has been suggested that the halfpenny is the rate for a letter posted at the Forces Post Office to a box or addressee at the same Forces Post Office. Or it might just be that the halfpenny is the minimum that you could hand a cover in and get it handed back cancelled. So we bounced back to 1971. Registered all up to Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia is a bit of an obscure destination. This is the version of the cover. The cover's a lot browner than some of the cream-colored ones that we've seen. So this is the die with 5.5 pence added because the postal rates changed after the nice embossed registration and postage die was created and before the postal rates came into effect and the postal strike ended. So it pays 23 pence altogether. And those rates changed in July the 1st. It was interesting that the inland rate changed to 20 pence on decimalization day. So you then got 20 pence inland registration, 20 pence inland express, but 15 overseas registration and 10 pence inland express all at the same time. So, and then we jump a bit ahead because conditions were fairly stable until 91, when Zone A and B were merged into Zone 1, and Zone C became Zone 2. But that's fairly mundane. So this is the elimination of registered express mail, in that it all became guaranteed delivery and had identical handling apparently inland. And it was £2.70 on the cover for either registered or special delivery. And the first class, the flame stamp here says first. It means it pays first class inland mail to 60 grams. Even if you bought it for 25 pence and the rate has gone up to 26 pence. So the demonetization of these stamps means that if you had them on hand and you could trade them in for a new first class stamp, you got a bit of a windfall. So on the back, there was a label with a barcode. One of the things about these labels that was not particularly well documented is that there are differences in the width of the barcode and the width of the barcode text. This is an unusual one in that it says SP, and that was not intended, but there were issues with these labels, and Viv Sussex had an article which makes obscure reference to a label with the wrong barcode printed on it. And I think this may be it, in that it says the SP typically was just printed as XX. So if you've got a cell phone or a barcode scanner on your computer, or you've got good eyes and a chart from the requisite Electronics Council standard on barcodes, or Wikipedia, you can tell from the barcodes, and both Michael Furphy's book and the GBPS website tell you how to read the barcode. This barcode, the width of these black lines is 2 quanta, 3 quanta, and 1 quanta. So it's medium, thick, and thin, if you want to call it that. And the R is coded differently. So you can actually look at them. If you're doing 100 of these covers and sorting them, you can just do them by eye. Well, I can. Yeah, and this is where the guaranteed delivery date was supposed to be filled in. So clearly not all the postal clerks always followed the instructions. This is international recorded. I included this because there was a lot of fuss in the, particularly in the American press, about GB mail. This meant recommandé, which were the international words which meant registered for a long time. But in 1993, Royal Mail changed the name of this service to International Recorded. The International Registered had a V for Valeur Déclarée. Valeur Déclarée has been variously written with or without the second E at the end of it. And now we can have discussion. And I can look at my clock and see that I'm almost on time.
Thank you for that, Duncan. That was a deep dive into postal rates for sure. I've got a question. If somebody was new, to this area of collecting, how would you go about, I mean, personally yourself, when you go to a show or to a dealer, like he's got a box full of envelopes like that, do you buy a bulk and then take it home so you can study it, or do you know what you're looking for?
I have a number of rate charts, much like the ones that go into my exhibits. So, and many of them are on my laptop. So when I find something, I'll say, oh, okay, let's go to the spreadsheet of registered express to Europe. There are two I need. Is this one of them? The other thing is that there's a very good book on 20th century GB postal rates by Michael Furphy, whom I believe is, unlike the other two books, the author is still alive. Other three books, actually. The author is still alive, and it's actually the best book. He used to have a small label that he sold with the book, printed from Word Perfect. It was sort of inch and a half wide and 3/4 of an inch high. And it had the 7 errors that people had reported in his book. In the intervening 24 years, I found 3 more either errors or clarifications. So that speaks 10 errors in a book like that speaks very highly of its quality. The other books, I've got pages that are just full of scribbles because of the number of errors in them. So okay. Maybe I shouldn't mention the authors of those books, since A, they're dead, and B, I'm not recommending their works. There is a Gavin Schreier book on George VI postal rates. Its genealogy is traced to Johnson and Peets, and it has some of the same statements that under the 50-year rule, this rate is not available. Well, no. Under the 50-year rule, it is available. It might not have been in 2000, but anyway.
All right. I'm thinking, in terms of myself, when I'm looking for material, it'll catch my eye right away because of the stamp or whatever, but you're juggling a date, a rate, a location and a destination, and keeping all that in your head like an algorithm and coming up with, oh, that was a half penny off. I think that's amazing. Just amazing.
Yes, I had discussions with Joan when she said postal historians say that some covers are forgeries because of this, that, and the other. Well, okay, there are some covers that are forgeries. There are some that are just a convenience overpayment. There are some where you can see, it's a confusing rate. So the post office clerk got confused after paying postage and registration and may have forgotten to charge the express, or some unscrupulous person stuck the express label on to try and make it a sexier cover. And then you get ones where everything's kosher, and if the rating is kosher, then it may or may not be a good cover. It still may be a forgery, but
all right.
Experts need to be careful that they say, yes, it's correctly rated, no, it's not, and only declare it a forgery if they have reasons to believe it is, such as it comes from a particular internet seller who seems to have some sort of circular device that puts blurry things that look like look vaguely resemble cancels onto covers that tie pieces that are clearly not contemporaneous to a cover.
All right. Do we have any questions out in the audience this evening?
Rob, I think there's a couple in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Chris is saying that some of the early covers had wax seals. Why would that be?
Oh, yes. You were required to seal them with wax. It's only later that you're allowed to use sellotape or to trust the adhesive on the envelope. So some of them, not the ones that I've got, you'd have wax and string. The string would be stuck to the cover with wax. So many of them where you see, I think one of the early ones had just a black stain where the wax used to be. It gets brittle and falls off in the post when you handle it. Oh, James is here. Hello, James.
Hi, Duncan. Yeah, I'm still awake.
Yes.
James is in.
James is in Germany, and it probably is morning by now.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Just gone 1 here in the morning, so yeah. Lovely things, Duncan, as it usual. Most of them would find places in one of my collections as well. So.
James is one of the contributors to the census of registered express covers, particularly registered express covers to Germany. And he may also be the owner of some of the ones that I thought someone paid a ridiculous price for, because I didn't get them.
Don't think so, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Curiously, it was typically the pre-decimal stamps used to Germany before the end of their validity were a lot of covers that I missed until the person who was paying ridiculous prices had them, and then I could get them for a more reasonable price.
Yeah, I've got quite a big collection of those, certainly, but the halfpenny matching on or the half new p matching as a single franking, that's something quite unusual, certainly.
Yes, that's why I showed all.
Yeah, I know.
That's why I showed both of them.
One used in Hong Kong. Old American Society was now defunct. About that several years
James,
ago.
you're fading out.
Sorry, yeah, it's late, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the 6-penny was another one, and the 10-penny cerise. They were all noted to be tricky ones.
Yeah.
My 75p Mason cover is 75p to pay registration.
That one.
Plus a 12-penny, no, plus the 12-penny stamp to pay postage. I don't have the other one, so it was just an accident that it paid that rate for 6 days, and I don't have it. So I claim that
Chris Harmon keeps on saying this from the Royal. They sent out several of those in that week with the 75p on it, but most people didn't realize probably that they that they had that most unusual rate.
Yeah, so it went in the bin.
Yeah, probably. Another nice one's the 10p stone going to Australia, of course, the rate C postcard. It's very unusual.
Yeah, got one of those.
Yeah.
They might be in the GBPS talk, which is QE2 rates.
Duncan, Ann Miller is asking, what is the difference between international recorded and registered?
The international recorded had very minimal indemnity. Indemnity being compensation, insurance, whatever you want to call it. So the international recorded is the old UPU registered service under the Royal Mail trademark trade name of international recorded. It aligned much better with the inland recorded service that had the same compensation as if you could prove that they'd lost a first class letter.
Okay.
So no, my VD covers are valeur déclarée. They're nothing to do with sexually transmitted infections, as one of the US exhibitors, Praxis, I think, Praxis collectors, there's a special rate for health-related samples. So he called those his VD covers. I kid thee not.
Oh my.
Did David? Oh,
Yeah, is David Foote?
you had a hand up?
All right. There's a question from Andy Sodar. Was it insured items only that were wax sealed?
No, it was a requirement at one time for all registered items.
Oh, okay.
The inland insured service was actually just extra indemnity on a registered cover. And if you read the GBPS rate tables, if you look at the postcard, the beginning of that is where all these rates are posted. It's very accurate because it comes from Michael Furphy with corrections from Maurice Buxton and Duncan Barber. So,
well, there's the imprimatur.
and Maurice collects a lot of obscure postal history subjects as well, including modern things. He gave a talk on postal strike covers, and he had a talk on decimalization in the post office, and it's from his talk and his work on the GBPS website that I found some of the documents.
Duncan, I have a question. For someone who's not very familiar with rates, like me, is there something that I could quickly look at to say, that's a special cover? Or do I have to have like this photographic memory like you did?
Well, a number of the things I showed were just to small obscure countries, and if you know the three biggies for each rate group, Australia is one of the biggies, New Zealand less common, China, Japan, Taiwan more exotic. Any of the Pacific Islands count as exotic. For Zone B, the US and Canada are deemed to be they're fairly common. South America is a little more exotic. In the next talk, I'll have some of the covers to places that were Zone C originally and became Zone B when all of the Americas were put into Zone B. They existed for a year and a half or something. So there are a few that are particularly special. The post-war pig covers are nice. Poland, Iceland, and Germany had separate airmail rates. So it's not who were the other pigs? Ireland and Greece, Portugal, Ireland, and Greece was at one point with the pigs because the economic policy was falling apart. But this is Poland, Iceland, and Germany. There was all up postage to the rest of Europe, but those three were special. Those you just have to remember. And often if you're looking on the web, you can do a web search specifically for, say 1907 USA, looking for the 0708 and then do 1908 USA. And if you're lucky, you get either a hit or you get nothing. And if you're unlucky, then it says, oh, we found all these things with fewer keywords. So you get a 1907, and it may turn out to be interesting as well, but it wasn't what you were looking for. No, much like looking through a dealer's box. Oh, I wasn't looking for this, but you said you were looking for QE2 covers. How come you've got a Victoria into Edward VIII? Well, yeah, they were interesting.
Yeah.
Duncan, while you mention it, if you have any spare of the Iceland or Poland post-World War II 1950 airmail letters, I'm still looking for them. I'd be appreciative of any of them, or those early Caribbean 1947 to early 1948 covers when they were in Zone C. I haven't ever seen any of those. I need one of those for my display. Have a look.
Yeah, I've got 3 or 4 of them, and the question is,
two then.
Do I need 4 destinations? Well, I think one of them is registered. Do I need 4 destinations?
Duncan, we've got a question from Phil Castell. He's got a couple of registered covers from Great Britain to the United States with U.S. postage due stamps of 10 cents on them. The notation says letter package. Any idea what that might mean?
Yes. The United States was not officially prepared to accept letter packages from the UK. So they taxed them 10 cents. There are also 10-cent tax marks for customs clearance. And at one point, the UK letters were charged 10 cents for customs clearance and then an extra 5 cents for delivery in the US. So they had 15 cents US on them.
Okay.
And yes, I've got a number of those.
Also have a question from Glenn Minshaw. Would you explain a little bit more about that Kiwi cover?
Yes. The one that I said was halfpence?
Yes.
Yeah, it's unaddressed. So one of the theories is that it's just the minimum amount that you put on a cover to hand it to the postal clerk and have it handed back. Apparently there's a Hong Kong cover which is actually addressed to a box at the same BFPO. So that was when people thought that it was a rate for delivery. No, you take it at the counter, stamp it, and put it straight into the box of the recipient in the same post office. And since it doesn't touch any civilian mail service, it's up to the British military to determine how much they want for it. And if nobody knows and there's a halfpenny stamp on it, you just cancel it and go on with your day's work.
It also had April Fool's Day cancel.
Oh, yes, yes. It also,
the joke may be on you.
It also says first day of issue, and I couldn't figure out what stamp was issued that day.
Hi, I come from Hong Kong. My name is Alice, and I am now stay in Canada. I've heard that you talk about the BFPO address in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And actually, I do collect some British field post office mail in Hong Kong. But I think it's very difficult to look for, to look for the postal rate. Sometimes the letter, the cover will mail through the British military postal stream, and sometimes it will enter into the Hong Kong postal stream. So it is quite complicated. So, but on the other hand, it's quite interesting to collect such a field post office in Hong Kong. I think it's also the case in other part of the world. And for the postal weight, I think I will recommend if someone wants to find a postal weight of particular country, we can look at the individual stamp catalog of that country, number one. And the number two is you can actually you can refer to some, for example, eBay and Delcom to look for that particular year of that cover from this country, and then you can refer some of the references, I think.
Yeah, it's Morris Buxton has admitted that the forces rates are the much more complicated ones. There are at least 3 different sets: one for the British Army of the Rhine, one for incoming, one for outgoing to anywhere other than Germany, and it's a bit of a dog's breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Moss.
Richard.
welcome.
Hello, Joan. Hello, Duncan. Can I just add something to that halfpenny kiwi item? I
Yes.
haven't got the stuff in front of me at the moment, but I seem to remember that around that time there was a British Forces office in Singapore which used a special cancellation, and that part of the outfit that was out there at the time was New Zealanders. There's a direct connection, I think, between the two.
Yeah, I've heard rumors of Royal New Zealand Air Force unit in Singapore at the time.
I think you'll find it on the internet, actually.
Okay.
Because I've got a couple. I've got one with a Singapore cancellation on it, which has clearly come from there. And sorry, a Singapore stamp, which has clearly come from there. And I've also got a card which came from a forces member whilst they had a special post office there. And that's why I'd looked it up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Was that Kiwi Express, little Kiwi?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
The Kiwi is the symbol in the center of the New Zealand Air Force roundel, where Canada probably has now that they've reverted to traditional insignia. The red circle, the white circle, the blue circle on British aircraft, maple leaf for Canada, kiwi for New Zealand.
Christopher Smith, you had a question before in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Duncan. I've got a 1946 cover from London to Pitcairn Island. It's got an airmail sticker, registered, and paid a rate of 1 6, so 1 shilling stamp and 6pence. Is there any comments, Duncan, on the rate for that?
What, 1946, you said?
Yeah, 9th of May, 1946.
That's the book that's upstairs.
Which book would it? Because I'd be interested to get a reference lead for that.
If Joan orchestrates an exchange of email addresses, the book is Edward Proud, except it doesn't go up to 1946.
Oh, right, okay.
So the other one is Michael Furphy, which is very accurate. And Johnson and Pete's. Yes, James.
That's
the only
one. Yeah.
the only disadvantage of the Furphy book is that it's A5, so it's small enough to lose in my study. Whereas the bigger books that aren't as accurate are much easier to find. So there's the Gavin Fryer book, which the airmails at least were fairly accurate, and Johnson and Pete's. Again, the airmails are fairly accurate.
What was the destination of the cover you had?
It was to the Island Secretary, Andrew Young, on Pitcairn Island.
Pitcairn Island.
It was on the address. I said via Fiji, but it wouldn't have gone via Fiji. Fiji was the British, what can you call it, colonial administration centre at the time, but the post for Pitcairn didn't go through that.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, James can look it up there.
Just
Oh,
looking, yeah.
It would have
Specific
gone,
items.
would have gone.
46.
One and threepence from
And
1939 on.
the registration rate was threepence,
Yeah,
3 pence.
yeah. That'll be
Beautiful.
1 and 6.
And one of the interesting things about the some of the rates, some of the rates were 1 and 3 just after peace broke out. Went down to a shilling in 47, and then went back up to 1 and 3 in 52, except to Zone C, of course, where it went up to 1 and 6.
Yeah.
So 1 and 3 was your airmail rate, and then threepence for
Yes.
registry. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a good cover. Andrew Young used to rip all his correspondence up, so very lucky to have that one.
Duncan, we're going to have to publish some, put together that bibliography of where you can look up some of the rates on those books. Because I think that would be very useful.
Okay, yeah, I can look up the what have I got? 5 sources.
Okay.
We can add a slide to the slide deck if you want.
Yeah. Or you just email Duncan. Right?
Yeah, especially if you've got 2 of them and one of them is for sale.
Oh, only one. Only one.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not parting.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. For registered express covers, I have been keeping a census of them, and I haven't been bugging people too much about selling them to me, have I, James?
No.
Austin Davis put up a display of all his registered express covers in response to a request. So he actually made a display of them and had it posted on the website, and then told me about it. And I'm seeing what was in the leftovers of the Gavin Fryer Express collection that were just some the lots which the lot describers don't understand particularly well. Oh yeah, all the rest of the express covers, some of them some of them with this, that, and the other, and hopefully it's express plus this, that, and the other, but we'll find out. In order to finish this talk on time, I haven't opened that box in the week and a half it's been here.
Duncan, when you show this stuff, now you're a judge, so that's, it's a little unfair. Does it get the same respect as some of the classical stamps, like the stamp, the earlier material?
It depends on the jury a bit. It's getting more respect more recently now that the pre-decimal material is all more than 50 years old. I got a gold in Rochester. That would be the year before graduation. Sorry, my wife and I got a gold. I was busy on my thesis, and she mounted many of the pages for me and redesigned pages for me. So that is our exhibit, and that was a gold when it was on 5 tiers, and it was in contention for the grand, along with all the other. Am I allowed to call them moldy oldies?
Oh, Duncan.
Well, I've also got a joke about my plates of the 1840 issue. One of the judges says, "You didn't tell us what country the stamps were from." I said, it's 1840.
Yeah.
There was only one country. I said, it's stamps of the world 1840. There was only one country with stamps in 1840. Well, postage stamps.
Postage stamps, yes.
Before the revenue
Watch
collectors.
Watch your terminology.
Before the revenue collectors jumped down my throat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was allowed to tell one political joke. So do we know why bridge is popular with Democrats? And the answer is, of course, well, if they bid properly, it's a game they can play with no Trump. So I figured that that wasn't offensive to either Republicans or Democrats selectively.
I'll tell you, Duncan, your talk actually makes the newer issues more interesting for me, because I didn't really, being surrounded by moldy oldies, as you called them, you never really looked at the, the newer material. It was like, if you have to go out of the classic, Scott classic, then, it's a little hard, not hard, you know what I mean, in our firm.
Yeah.
But this is really interesting. The rates are actually as fascinating as some of the older stuff.
And I don't see Dr. Brian Plain from Victoria. He had the interesting airmail collection of GB George VI, when the airmail rates were changing all over the place, from the Imperial Airmail scheme, where it was penny halfpenny. The cover I couldn't find upstairs was the 1 shilling threepence to Newfoundland, and that was before Canada joined Newfoundland to create the new Dominion of Canada. And the Empire rate did not apply to North America, or the Caribbean, or South America. It was just Africa, the Middle East, and the Far East, and Australia, and the Pacific. So we got interesting rates in that period. And in my my pre-decimal QE2 exhibit, I've got covers from the same rate period to China and to Hong Kong. And the one to China, of course, is more money because it's further away from the UK. I think the thing was that under various bilateral agreements, the British Post Office didn't pay terminal fees to Hong Kong. It was all under the rubric of Commonwealth mail. And the expectation was that the volumes would make up for each other. Ireland had special status from when there was an agreement after independence until 1986, when An Post started charging the UPU terminal fees. So that's something I've talked about with Irish collectors.
Do you see a lot of forgeries in your rates? Like
Not a lot. Oh, probably if I've seen 10 in the last 10 years. The one advantage of collecting things that are not recognized to be expensive is that people don't go to the trouble of forging them, except for one particular seller that I don't buy from. The other thing that we see more of is the Rochester hobby shop forgeries of with very American-looking ship cancellations on covers reportedly from British ships. Well, A, the British ships never used that cancel, and B, if they did, they didn't all have the same dent in the frame. So there are quite a few of those hanging around.
Chris Savage, nice welcome. You have to
I'm just going to unmute. No, I was just curious of Duncan's comment about the Latin America or South America being a very obscure destination. And I only asked the question because I happen to collect airmails from the UK to places like Brazil and Argentina in the 1930s. That period where there was a lot of Zeppelin and Dornier aircraft activity in airmails, and also airmails that traveled via either Germany or Paris, or in some cases across the United States, and then airmail down south. The interesting thing is that a lot of these airmails only took 3 or 4 days to get down there, which was a lot shorter than it is today.
Yeah.
So I suppose my question is, with that excellent air service, would there have been any reason why there would have been not many registered letters going down there? I mean, I'm looking at one now, a registered airmail down to Argentina from the UK that was flown with the Dornier aircraft or Zeppelin. I can't quite tell which, given the actual stamp. But would people have not used more registered mail down there? It's not so obscure. There's a big, huge Anglo-Argentine society down there.
Oh, there's a big, huge Welsh community in Patagonia as well.
That's right.
So, no, Argentina, Brazil are the more common South American destinations. Belize is less common. Peru, Ecuador, Venezuela.
I have Brazil. I have Paraguay as well in my collection. But I mean, I was just curious why it might be considered a sort of a rather an obscure destination for registered. On the one hand, and secondly, with such excellent airmail service, would there have been any need to register?
Registration is the perception of risk. If anything, it might slow the mail down slightly.
Yes. Yeah. It's curious. I mean, I'm fascinated with your talk. I know absolutely nothing about it. But when I was just interested to know whether there would, in fact, have been more activity on the registered front to those destinations. That was all.
I don't have enough of that material to do a good sample, to have a statistically representative sample.
Yeah, curious. Anyways, thank you.
Yeah. And especially on that point, as the airmail rates down to South America, sort of in the 30s, were so high, up to 4 shillings and 4 shillings and sixpence a half an ounce. You get the lots of seahorse covers going down there, and the registration was only threepence or something, so it was didn't cost any more really to send something registered. But,
yeah, that's true. I'm looking at some here with well over 6 shillings.
Yeah,
it would have been a component, but
yeah. There's plenty of 10 shilling seahorse on, the 5 shilling seahorse, the half crown, and just numbers of pounds. The seahorse pound is, of course, one everyone would be looking for, but no one's ever found one, I don't think.
Right. Interesting.
Andrew,
anyways,
you have your hand up, and I think we're in your neck of the woods, right?
I put a hand up because I wanted to comment that Argentina as a destination was not an obscure destination. There was a lot of mail between the UK and Argentina, especially because there was a big British colony in Argentina, not only in Patagonia, but all over the country. Don't forget that Argentina's railways were built by the British. And this was the second largest railway net after India. And it was almost all constructed by the British. So there was a lot of mail, and there was registered mail coming and going from Argentina, even airmail in the 40s and during the World War II. So it was not that obscure. But what you don't see is registered express, because express was it wasn't useless, because the only thing you got out of express, it was that you accelerated your mail being taken home, the home delivery. That was a little quicker. So it made no sense to send it by express mail. They sent it by simple surface or airmail, and registered it if they wanted to be sure that it arrived. But if not, there were some insured mail that I even have. That's very nice. And there were a lot of sendings to British banks in Argentina, and those were really heavy. So you see 10 shillings and 20 shillings and £1 on it. It's very interesting and very nice. What I did never get is the Seahorse £1 green, but I got the PUC £1 on cover, on an airmail cover, a wonderful cover, bank cover. So I think there are plenty of items sent to Argentina and from Argentina to the UK.
Thank you for that.
Duncan, Ellis Kwok made a funny comment here in the chat. He says, sometimes over-franking will throw a wrench in determining the postal rate. I can only imagine.
Well, yeah, there are some lovely Oswald Marsh registered express covers, but many of them are first day covers, and what's on them bears absolutely no resemblance to the postal rates. So those are ones that I leave to the postal, the first day cover collectors, because they're willing to pay the insane prices for a cover that's not correctly rated, just because it's a first day.
So Duncan, we may have covered this, but the UPU tracks all the rates, or just for members who are in the UPU?
The UPU rates were required between and among members, and virtually every legitimate postal authority either belongs to the UPU or is we need to have a politically correct word for possession protectorate, subjugated, occupied country, whatever you want to call it, of one of the major powers. And then a lot of countries said that, yeah, they may not be in the UPU, but it's a pain to keep track of them, so we'll just charge the UPU rate anyway.
Well, thank you. Fascinating talk. Aja. And I know I butchered the name. I'm so sorry.
Anyways, thank you, Duncan, for the talk. Actually, it's interesting for me because certainly with the Machins, it's something that I've become kind of more interested in, because like the decimalization day, I grew up in London, so I was actually there at the time. So it was kind of so the talk was interesting to go back to that point. So that was fascinating. One thing you mentioned in passing was about the wax seals. What happens to them in the post?
Oh, often if they're not packaged well, you'll get one that's just in an envelope, and you get it. I get it here and open the envelope, and most of the wax seal falls out of the envelope, having cracked and fallen off the cover.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of legitimate question because in 26 I was thinking about putting wax seals on the back of special edition of envelopes, and I thought, well, it's a nice idea, but is it practical? So yeah, maybe not. Nice idea, but
Are you allowed to do that anymore?
Well, yeah,
States?
yeah, that may be an issue too.
I could see a multi-$1,000 machine getting a little bit gummed up.
that's possible. Might have to rethink that one. Anyway.
Yeah. I think for weddings, what they do is they put the wax seal on, but they put it in an envelope. So they have
Yes.
a mailing envelope that's really just naked, and then they have the old-fashioned wax seal on the inside,
Or they have a paper seal.
or a paper seal, depending on how ambitious the bride is.
That could be a practical alternative. Yeah.
I think it increases the weight, though. Alex.
Hi. Just talking about wax seals. Is this going to hold up? Here's I've got 4 of these letters from a lawyer's office, registered inland UK. Can you see that?
Yeah.
It's got a 3 penny rate inland. They're all been sent from a lawyer's office to a number of people in the same street, and they've all been refused. Basically, an eviction notice or something. There was slum clearance or something going on. Anyway, these have got nice little wax seals on the back. My understanding of these blue lines is that prior to this, well, actually, have I lost you? Am I gone?
No, I still hear you.
I disappeared off my screen. You cannot move a video if someone got their hand raised. Okay, sorry.
You're still here.
I'm still here. Anyway, my understanding of the blue cross on these things is originally it was a string.
Originally, it was
with the wax seal to prevent people undoing the string.
A green ribbon or string.
Yeah.
And it also enclosed the registration forms they were green forms.
Yeah.
And it was all tied up in string, and then the string was sealed to the form, which enclosed the cover.
Right. Yeah. Now, these wax seals have lasted since the 11th of January 1915, and they're perfectly rigid, not cracking, not falling apart.
And they're thin seals that haven't been through the post recently.
Well, no, they've been through the post twice, because they went out, they were refused, and they came back to the sender. Yeah, but they haven't been through the post recently. I see what you're saying, Duncan, that it's when you buy one of these, it might get mangled in the post.
It might get mangled in the post unless it's properly packed.
Yeah. Okay.
But is it not just sealing wax?
Yes, it is.
It's just wax. Sealing wax.
Just wax.
Yes.
Is there a seal on it?
You hold the wax stick and you hold a matchstick or a candle below it. The wax melts. You get wax on the thing, and then you put your signet ring on it, and that's the sealing wax.
Well, is there a signet? I'm wearing a signet ring.
Yes.
But it was a seal ring. It's cornelian. But nothing. They wouldn't have been wearing these things in 1915. So what is the seal? Is it just the wax, or is there an actual seal?
No, there's an imprint on it which has the letters in script E and L, And E&L is a lawyer's office in Aberdeen called Edmonds and Leddingham.
Okay.
So they have a hand stamp or
Yeah,
a
and a hand stamp. Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But if they were refused and sent back, they should have had postage due on them.
No, not in the UK.
What?
In the one of the things they didn't do was printed paper. Printed paper, when it was returned, was charged the single rate postage due.
Yes.
And often when you see one at 15 times the printed paper
That's right,
rate,
that was the
that's
top letter,
because
yeah.
that was the top letter of a stack of
And these
15.
would have been these would have been
Oh,
a pile of them going
But
back to the
no,
office.
refused first undeliverable first class, no, undeliverable letters, and more recently first and second class letters, packets, were not charged postage due when being returned. And in fact, they were not charged postage due when being forwarded. That was a lot earlier, that if you reposted them within a set time frame, it could be forwarded at no further charge.
That's correct, yes.
So printed paper is a good one for showing off philatelic knowledge, because things were different for printed paper.
Oh yes, very much so.
So Duncan, if they forwarded the mail, I'm assuming it has to be within the country, right? They're not going to forward it.
If it was forwarded internationally, then it was taxed the single difference between what was paid and what it should be paid, according to the rules. Okay. And Ken Snelson will correct me if I'm wrong if he's on the call. He's the expert on postage due mail. Or an expert on postage due mail. But I do have some of the post office guides, 50 something, and then 3 more recent ones. I'm hoping to donate them to the American Philatelic Library, and that they will then scan them and let me have a PDF of them, preferably a word searchable PDF. So they will tell you it needs to be reposted the same day or the following day after delivery. Which is why the ones to Zone A don't have any postage due on them. The ones that are returned, and I have got more than the one that I showed. I've also got a crash cover that's really ugly because it was redirected twice. Recovered pristine from the crash, and then it was post restaurant to Darwin, but it wasn't collected, so it was returned to sender. And then by the time it got back, the sender had moved, so it was redirected again. This was an interesting airmail cover that traveled from Yugoslavia to Greece by train. And we're not sure how it got from Alexandria off a flying boat to Cairo for a wheeled aircraft.
I like the morning covers that are also in a crash. I think there's something ironic about that. So there's too many people competing for crash covers. They send them like, shouldn't complain about that, but
well, it depends whether you're selling them or buying them.
When you're selling it, you're not complaining. When you're buying it, it's like,
I'm going to view some next week in a local auction here. There's a whole pile of crash mail, apparently.
Oh, and James, I seem to have heard that the Morgan collection of barcode mail finally sold.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Richard, chime in. Hold on.
Unmute. Thank you.
Just a little bit more about that Singapore item. Now the cat has left my knee. I've been able to go and have a look at some stuff which I was looking at a few weeks ago. And I've got an envelope here from 1972 Singapore, which was from the 28th Anzac Field Regiment. And they were part of this part of this FPO that was in Singapore at the time, and that's probably why you've got that Kiwi on it. But if you look it up, 28th Anzac Field Regiment, you'll probably find some more details about that.
Do you have the BFPO number on that cover?
I haven't on this one. No, it's a special. It's a special cancellation. I have got a. I've got one somewhere. I've just actually got them out. I've got a card with an FPO number on it, if I can find it. Here it is. I think this is it. Here we are. It's FPO. Ooh, I can't just read it. FPO 5 Singapore, ANZUK and ANZUK. FPO 5 Singapore. It was a special cancellation.
Okay.
This is. Can you see it?
Duncan's looking like he'd like a scan of that.
Right, I'll send that to you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
When Duncan's quiet, I know he's really interested in something.
He's pondering.
Yes, he's.
Or if he's not presenting, he doesn't know anything. So, no, best to be quiet and appear omniscient rather than open your mouth and prove that you're not.
Okay, do we have anything else for Duncan, or are we gonna give him back to his wife?
I got the latest Louise Penny novel from the library and gave it to her to read, but said, you need to be reading this from 6 till about 8 on Thursday, so you don't take up any bandwidth.
Yeah, it's funny, but what we'll do, Duncan, is afterwards, some of the things that didn't quite come through, we'll just do some voiceovers so that way they're nice and clear for people.
That'd be good, yeah.
Yep.
Because the information was fantastic, but that, we're gonna have to relocate you to an area with better bandwidth.
If I'd thought, I would have asked the college if I could borrow one of their rooms across the road where there is actually fiber. So this is a bad advertisement for Bell Rural Internet, Bell Canada Rural Internet.
Richard, chime in. You're welcome to just talk.
Yes. Well, one last item. It's just come to me exactly what this is. ANZUK, I think, is Australian, New Zealand, UK Field Regiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a special. It was some sort of special. I don't know exactly what it was. It was some sort of special concept that they had out there for a short time. I believe the British left it to the New Zealanders afterwards, but you'd have to look that up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dick, you're making me cold with your hat and coat. Nice. Alex, talk.
Just a comment on Richard's answers. I think it's also includes the US as well. I think it was a multi allied HQ in Hong Kong. And I think it's Australia, New Zealand, UK, and US as well.
Yes, this one is Singapore.
Sorry, I beg your pardon, Singapore. I beg your pardon, Singapore.
Yes, right.
I think the Americans were involved as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You need.
Well, I should be writing these two items up over the next few weeks because they're going to be part of one of my displays, and I will be looking again at the website to see exactly what that was. Because I've also got one with a Singapore cancellation on it as well, from the same people.
You need to remember that much of the initial code breaking in the Pacific that went into the victory at Coral Sea was actually Australian work and was turned over to the Americans, just as a lot of the initial work in the Atlantic came from Polish sources.
I might just add one final thing. Those two items I've shown you in the early 1970s, I actually removed those from the office post.
Okay, so we delete that from the recording. Got it.
No. Legally. I did it legally.
Okay.
Well, 50 years ago anyway.
They did quite well out of what I took away, because a lot of they were getting very little money for for all their posts, and one particular person, I sold him stuff which in actual fact equaled the amount of, and gave to them the amount of money which they actually got for the whole of their mail in the year.
Yes, we have stories of having garbage bags full of commercial letters, and the company kept doing it because over the space of about a year, they got $500 of checks back that they had been going to put into the trash.
Yes, I've done that myself, because when I joined another firm, they had some GB Machins which were quite unusual, and I took all these envelopes home to check through them, and they hadn't opened them properly, and I took back several postal orders.
We tried to do that today with some of the companies to get them to hold the mail for the kids and send it out.
They probably quote PIPIT, the Data Protection Act, and all sorts of things.
Here they're not too bad, but
okay. Tambra Mani has a page that says, a lot of people look down on first day covers, and these are commercial usages of the two warship stamps prior to the first day of issue, and their commercial mail. So.
Okay, do we have anything else, or are we gonna release Duncan for the time being?
No.
Well, Duncan, thank you very, very much. Really interesting.
Oh yeah.
I thought I didn't go in there with a lot of expectations because it's not my stuff. Like my email. But I found myself really interested in what you were showing. And now I'm going to go through some of the large lots down there and see if I could find anything really cool.
Do you get the GB journal from the the GB Philatelic Society?
I probably do, but I can't keep honestly, I can't keep up with the reading.
Because with it being the postal strike, I haven't actually seen my latest opus in print, but it was in the November-December issue, which is in the mail somewhere.
I got it. Duncan, I got it last week.
So it's got the
you're on the front, on the cover as well, Duncan. Here you are down there.
Yes, yep. I've seen the electronic copy. So it's the 4 week periods and 2 services. 8 covers and not much about the labels.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that's why talks like this are very valuable, because there's a lot of people like me who, not that we don't read, but the day is so busy that it's much easier to put it on your phone and watch the video and get the information than it is to, you know, schlop along a journal and try to read it. Alex, what are you showing up there?
Oh,
You're on mute, Alex.
8 and 8 and 2.5.
A person called Paul Horton, and I've got quite a number of covers which he seems to have fabricated to get returned to himself. But I think that rate there, Duncan, 2 8s and a 2.5. It's not registered. 8 and 8, 16, 20, what's that?
Yeah, it says yes.
Where was it sent to?
16, 18 and a half. So
1957. 57.
Yeah, well,
57 to Pacific Island.
Yeah.
Halfpence overpaid. And you,
Just now.
yeah.
I got another one here, the same guy. The Canal Zone with a penny halfpenny on it.
Yeah.
Panama Canal Zone.
Oh, yeah.
was it sealed?
No.
Printed paper then.
Yeah. Return if undelivered, it says.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that a printed matter rate, a penny halfpenny?
Printed paper, yeah. Yeah. What date is it?
1956.
Yeah, that was the first step for printed paper, surface printed paper.
Yeah. He's got 2 or 3 of these sent to different places.
Yeah.
Just Duncan's obscure destinations. Canal Zone and Papua New Guinea.
Yeah. 1950 to 1957. First step, full printed paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
It's gone 2 o'clock here.
It's getting
Bye
late.
bye everyone. See you
Goodbye.
again
Thank you very much,
sometime.
James.
Thanks. Good seeing you all. And
And happy holidays, because you know
thank you all of you
Duncan
too.
is closing our year off. You know, who better than Duncan, right?
Yeah, I'm closing off the GBPS season, I think, in July. It will be at a more civilized hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. When's your next talk, Duncan? You mentioned that you were giving another talk.
I shall go to the rate page, which gets me to the GBPS, up one, and then to current program. Yeah, there we are.
You're in there somewhere.
Oh, no, I'm not closing out. There's the meeting at Stanley Gibbons. So the 12th of July, QE2 postal rates. The GB is implied because it's the GBPS. 2 p.m. London time, which makes it 9 o'clock Eastern time, 9 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. It's more civilized than midnight when you're doing things in late evening over on the East Coast. Yeah, but okay. So anyway, see you tomorrow, Duncan. Maybe on the GBPS Zoom meeting this evening.
Hey.
Zoom meeting tomorrow.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's already tomorrow for you. So
tomorrow meaning it's already today here. But
yeah, tomorrow meaning Saturday.
Tomorrow Saturday, yeah. Okay. Anyway,
and that meeting is coming to you from 3 hours behind me. So
yeah, so that's 6 o'clock here over here.
It'll be 9 a.m. for the presenter.
Okay, well that's okay.
So
after breakfast. Anyway, bye everyone. I'm leaving. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, James. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Okay.
And I'll say season's greetings to all my good friends.
Well, I don't know if you heard the quip that's attributed to Churchill that the English and the Americans are two great people separated by a common language.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Wishing all you a super holiday, and we'll see you next year.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be next year. Good night all, and have a Merry Christmas.